안녕하세요.
The morning in Seoul was cold, with a light drizzle covering the towering skyscrapers. The sharp wind blew through the bustling streets, carrying the hurried murmurs of the city that never slept. At the top of the Kang Enterprises building, one of the most powerful corporate empires in South Korea, Kang Jun-ho observed the landscape from his panoramic window. His expression remained neutral, cold, almost indifferent to the world outside. The billionaire CEO, known for his ruthless demeanor and calculated decisions, had everything anyone could desire: wealth, status, respect. Yet, despite being surrounded by luxury and power, he felt an emptiness he couldn't explain. His Swiss watch read exactly 7:55 a.m. when his personal assistant entered the room. "President Kang, the board meeting is at 9. Would you like me to adjust anything in the presentation?" Jun-ho didn't even turn away from the view before him. "No need. They'll just listen and agree, as always." The assistant nodded, well accustomed to his boss's unshakable confidence. But before he could leave, Jun-ho added, "And find out why we're still hiring incompetent employees." The assistant frowned, confused. "Is there a problem, sir?" "Nothing that concerns me. Just an observation." He didn't explain further, not even to himself. But for the first time in a long while, something outside his routine had caught his attention. On the ground floor of the same building, Yoon Hye-jin adjusted her modest uniform and took a deep breath. It was her first day on the job, and she couldn't afford to make mistakes. The salary was modest, but it was enough to help pay for her mother's medical treatment. Her dream was to rise in the company, to prove her worth, but she knew that no one there would notice a simple administrative employee. Or so she thought. With a stack of documents in her arms, Hye-jin hurried through the wide, gleaming hallways of the building. Her mind was occupied, trying to memorize the floors and avoid errors, but everything happened too fast. Collision. The papers flew through the air, and before she could comprehend what had happened, she found herself looking up at him. Kang Jun-ho, the CEO of the company, the most powerful man in that building, the face gracing business magazines. And now, he was standing right in front of her, arching an eyebrow with an expression that was hard to decipher. "Do you always walk around dropping documents? Or was this just to get my attention?" His voice was deep, calm, yet laced with sharp irony. Hye-jin felt her face burn. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see. It wasn't my intention." She quickly knelt to gather the scattered papers, her heart pounding in her chest. What happened next left everyone around them in shock. Kang Jun-ho knelt down as well. The CEO's man, who never concerned himself with trivial matters, began picking up the papers alongside her. The employees passing by stopped to watch, whispering among themselves. President Kang never did things like this. The silence between them was almost suffocating. For a brief moment, Hye-jin's fingers brushed against his as they reached for the same paper. A jolt ran through her body, and she quickly pulled her hand back, feeling her heart jump. Jun-ho, on the other hand, simply observed her for a second longer than he should have. Her expression was different. Unlike the high society women he knew always careful about their image, always trying to impress him, Hye-jin didn't seem to be trying at all. Her gaze was sincere, hesitant, as if she had no idea what to expect from him. That unsettled him, or perhaps intrigued him. He handed her the papers and stood up. "Make sure you don't make the same mistake again." His voice was still firm, but slightly less cold. And then, without another word, he walked away. But before disappearing down the hallway, he glanced back. Hye-jin saw when he did it, and at that moment, she realized that something inside her had changed too. The week went on like any other at Kang Enterprises. The building was a living organism, driven by deadline pressure and the coldness of numbers. However, something had changed for Kang Jun-ho. His sharp mind, always focused on strategies and negotiations, now found itself distracted at inopportune moments. He kept recalling Yoon Hye-jin's surprised expression, the way her eyes held something he couldn't decipher. That Monday, Junho was in his office reviewing financial reports when he heard a soft knock on the door. Without taking his eyes off the document, he responded automatically. "Come in." Hae-jin entered, holding a clipboard against her chest. She had been assigned to deliver some reports to the executive department, but she hadn't expected to be called directly to the CEO's office. "Mr. Kang, here are the documents from the administrative department. The manager asked me to deliver them personally." Junho finally looked up. Seeing her there, so organized and focused, made a nearly imperceptible smile form at the corner of his lips. "How long have you been working here?" he asked, taking the papers without taking his eyes off her. Hae-jin blinked, surprised by the question. "Just a few weeks, sir." "And how are you finding the job?" She hesitated for a moment, but opted for the truth. "Difficult, but I like challenges." Something about her answer pleased him. Junho leaned back in his leather chair and, for a moment, studied her more closely. The silence stretched, making the atmosphere unexpectedly tense. Hae-jin felt a chill run down her spine as she realized how intensely he was looking at her. "That's good. People who give up easily have no place here." Hae-jin quickly nodded, still feeling her heart race. She turned to leave, but before she could touch the doorknob, his voice stopped her. "Yoon Hae-jin." She turned around, surprised to hear him say her name. "Yes, sir?" "Make sure you watch where you're going. I don't want more documents scattered on the floor." His tone was teasing, but Hae-jin noticed something different in it. He wasn't being cruel, he was enjoying the situation. That made her blush slightly. "It won't happen again, sir." She left quickly, without looking back. Little did she know that Junho was still watching her, intrigued. Later that day, an unexpected event put them on the same path again. Hae-jin was in the building's cafe, enjoying a rare moment of pause, when she heard an unusual commotion. Employees whispered excitedly, and when she looked toward the entrance, she understood why. Kang Junho had just walked in. The CEO never came there. It was common for his lunches to be served in his office or in luxury restaurants. But now, he walked up to the counter and placed his order like any other employee. The silence in the cafe was palpable. Curious, Hae-jin kept her eyes on him. To her surprise, after grabbing his coffee, he walked over to her table and, without ceremony, sat down. "Mr. Kang?" She widened her eyes, unsure of what to say. "Am I interrupting your break?" "No, I just didn't expect you to." He took a sip of his coffee, ignoring the curious glances around them. "They say this cafe's coffee is better than the one served on my floor. I decided to check." Hae-jin knew that wasn't true. The coffee on the executive floor was imported and prepared by professional baristas, but she didn't dare question him. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but rather filled with a strange anticipation. Junho looked at her in a way he didn't look at anyone else. Hae-jin quickly averted her gaze, feeling heat rise to her face. "I hope you don't mind," he finally said, placing the cup on the table. She gave him a hesitant smile. "The cafe is public, sir." Junho let out a low chuckle. "Good to know." The unexpected meeting at the cafe did not go unnoticed by the others. Within minutes, rumors began spreading throughout the building. After all, why did the billionaire CEO suddenly seem so interested in such an ordinary employee? Junho wondered that himself. The halls of Kang Enterprises were more restless than usual. Whispers and curious glances followed Yoon Hae-jin wherever she went. Since her encounter with Kang Junho at the cafe, rumors had spread like wildfire. Speculations ranged from a mere coincidence to absurd theories about a possible involvement between them. Hae-jin felt the weight of those stares, but tried to focus on her work, ignoring the murmurs. However, it wasn't just the office that felt different. Junho had changed as well. That afternoon, while reviewing contracts in his office, he realized that his thoughts kept drifting back to the young employee. Hae-jin was unlike anyone he had ever met. There was something about the way she spoke, the way she moved, the way she avoided his gaze while unconsciously challenging him at the same time. It was intriguing, dangerous. He drummed his fingers on the desk, irritated by his own distraction. But before he could push those thoughts aside, his assistant entered the room with unexpected news. President Kang, there's an issue with the financial reports from the administrative department. Employee Yoon Hae-jin has been called in for clarification. Junho frowned. What exactly happened? Some data appears to have been entered incorrectly, causing inconsistencies in the numbers. The financial director requested her presence to explain. A strange irritation surged within Junho. He didn't know why he cared so much, but he stood up without a second thought. Where is she? In the audit department's meeting room. Without wasting a moment, he left his office with firm strides, leaving a trail of surprised employees in his wake. Inside the meeting room, Hae-jin sat before 3 supervisors and the financial director. Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew she hadn't made any mistakes, but the altered data was under her responsibility. Keeping her voice steady, she tried to explain. I reviewed these reports before submitting them. I'm sure the data was correct during my final check. The director looked at her coldly. So, are you implying that the data was altered after submission? A bitter taste filled Hae-jin's mouth. She knew it was possible, but accusing someone without proof would be dangerous. Before she could respond, the door suddenly swung open. Everyone turned in shock as Kang Junho entered the room. His commanding presence silenced the space instantly. President Kang? The financial director immediately stood up, visibly unsettled. Junho's icy gaze swept across the room before landing on Hae-jin. His eyes scanned her worried expression, and something within him tightened. He hated seeing that look on her face. What's going on here? His voice was cold, sharp. The director cleared his throat, trying to maintain composure. Sir, we are reviewing some inconsistencies in the reports, and employee Yoon Hae-jin was responsible for the data. We need to clarify whether this was human error. Junho crossed his arms, analyzing the situation. Have you checked file access records? Could someone else have altered the data after she submitted it? The director hesitated. Not yet, sir. Junho arched an eyebrow. Then why are you interrogating the employee without a proper investigation? An uncomfortable silence filled the room. The director shifted in his seat, uneasy. I didn't mean to suggest that she's to blame. We just need to clarify. First, conduct an audit on file access. If any changes were made after submission that weren't by her, I want a detailed report by the end of the day. He turned to Hae-jin. You may return to work. Relief flooded Hae-jin's body, but she was also surprised. She never expected the CEO to care about something like this. Without another word, Junho left the room. That night, while reviewing documents at home, he couldn't shake the image of Hae-jin's relieved expression from his mind. For the first time in years, he felt his heart moving in a direction not dictated solely by reason. And that was dangerous.
You're my eternal